Hello my nerds and welcome back to Lore of the Worlds. Today we're going to be diving deep into a delightfully insane Stormlight 5 theory that I've gone ahead and cooked up myself. There will of course be full Stormlight spoilers ahead, including the 2 novellas that are out. I'm very excited to jump right in, so without further ado, let's examine some positively wild theories about Dalinar, Odium, and the nascent deity Honor. I'll see you folks right after the title. Okay. I think the normies have left. Let's go ahead and get right to it. Dalinar is a complex character with a checkered past, as I'm sure you're aware of. You've probably already read the books at this point if you're watching this video. But I do think that it's important to quickly go over a few relevant plot points from his past, as I believe they're going to be informing the future of our friend, the Blackthorn. So the biggest part of Dalinar's past to keep in mind is his history as the main general of Alethkar. For years, he gained a reputation as a ruthless yet incredibly effective commander in the army of his brother, Gavilar. He went ahead and stomped all across the country in his shard plate, playing the warlord to his brother's diplomat. And together, they were successful. Kholinar ascended to the greatest power in the region, dominating all lesser kingdoms and uniting them under one banner. And then Dalinar rested and all was peaceful. Ha. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, no. He kept right on fighting Gavilar's battles, putting down rebellions and such, until his majesty oh so tragically died at the hands of Seth's son Vallano, truthless of Shinovar. And all the while, Dalinar was not alone. And here, I'm not just talking about Gavilar or Dalinar's wife here. I am, of course, referring to Dalinar's old friend, the Thrill. Also known as Ner'gale, the Thrill is an unmade under the indirect control of Odium, at least during the time directly before Stormlight gets properly started. Ner'gale serves as a sort of battle fury, pushing soldiers to fight harder and more brutally and reducing pain, remorse, and really any emotion other than an intense drive to kill, to fight. The Thrill isn't like a super intelligent unmade, and they act as more of like a force of nature than anything else. Dalinar was influenced by them for a significant portion of his life, and indeed the connection, both lowercase c and uppercase c connection, is part of what enabled Dalinar to capture Ner'gale into a gemstone. And while pulling a trap card on this unmade and shoving it into a gemstone is indeed pretty impressive, it most likely would have been impossible without another facet of the Blackthorn's character that we're going to be talking about today: Dalinar's status as a bondsmith. At the end of Words of Radiance, we see Dalinar form a bond with the Stormfather that is, of course, one of the most important native spren of Roshar. This grants him access to various abilities and powers, many of which we still have no idea the full extent of. But we know that he can form bonds, which seems to be an incredibly powerful, if arcane skill set to play around with. We've seen him do everything from simple stuff like mend statues to weirder things like form a connection between Kaladin and his very dead brother so that they could talk one last time. The extent of Dalinar's abilities is completely unknown, but the ceiling of these powers seems to be near limitless. And that's not all that Dalinar's playing around with. He's got a few other tricks up his sleeve as well. He has access to Honor's perpendicularity and can summon it at will, which no bondsmith has ever really had access to in the past. Not only does this let people travel between the cognitive realm and the physical realm, it also provides access to the spiritual realm, whatever that may look like. Bringing the spiritual realm so close to the physical also has some other weird side effects, such as recharging gemstones in the general vicinity of the perpendicularity. So you'd better believe that's going to be important going forward. And then there's the Dawnshard. What is a Dawnshard? Well, we don't really have a great idea of what they actually do or how they function, but they apparently played a huge role in the shattering of Adonalsium. And Adonalsium is the sort of like proto-god that's actually responsible for the creation of Roshar itself. So these Dawnshards can apparently have some incredibly profound effects, and those in the Cosmere that know what they're talking about on the subject seem to all be in agreement that the Dawnshards can be weapons of some sort. They may not have to be used as weapons, but they definitely can be used as weapons, again, of some sort. And one of them currently seems to be talking to Dalinar. What's going on here hasn't really been explicitly confirmed yet, and is indeed a mini theory in and of itself, but here's what we know. There's a soft, warm voice that speaks to Dalinar on rare occasions, whispering for him to unite them, whatever that may mean. It's incredibly persistent and seems to show up at odd, poignant times in his life. It also has been sending him warm dreams of, like, I don't know, peace and stuff. Dreams entirely different from those sent by the Stormfather. This whole description of what Dalinar's experiencing rings incredibly similar to what Rysn experienced when she first took up her Dawnshard on a Mia. So yeah, we can assume that something similar is happening here. So, let's go ahead and start pulling a few of these pieces together into a mini theory that we can build off of. I strongly believe that Dalinar will receive access to a Dawnshard named Unity sometime in the next book. I think that it will have been hidden inside of the Stormfather in some way and only accessible by someone worthy of it. And I think that this Dawnshard is what's been enabling him to perform feats that no bondsmith has ever been capable of before. Now that theory is relatively nutty in and of itself, but we can do better. So folks, you better go ahead and slap on a Ralcolest helmet yourself before we start this next section, because things are about to get weird. Let's start putting together a few more pieces of the puzzle and talk about the shards of Honor and Odium. So what are shards? Well, to put it simply, they're gods. To put it less simply, I have this whole 45-minute video talking about each of them and what we know that's going to answer every question you have about shards. Let's go ahead and zoom in on two in particular that have had a particularly large impact on the Rosharan system: Honor and Odium. Honor was hanging around Roshar for quite some time after the shattering of Adonalsium, apparently just kind of hanging out with his bay cultivation, doing honor things. And then everything changed when when Odium attacked. We're gonna go ahead and get into recent happenings with Odium in just a moment, but for now, let's go ahead and take a look at Honor and throw out a few quick mini theories about him. So at this point, it's clear that he's very dead, but there are mutterings that he has survived in some way, shape, or form. During Adolin's trial in Rhythm of War, Notum proudly declared that Honor is not dead so long as he lives in the hearts of men, which is both metaphorically poignant as well as possibly literally true. I've seen posts suggesting that Honor may be residing in gem hearts that are growing within the human race, which, I mean, it's not entirely crazy. We've seen Rashadium develop gem hearts spontaneously over time. Why not humans, right? But we're gonna ignore that for now. For now, the most important part is that he may live on somewhere. Or enough parts of him to put him back together in some way. I'm gonna go one step further. I believe that Honor will be reforged, taking up residence in a new vessel, and I believe strongly that it's gonna happen by the end of Stormlight 5. More specifically, I believe that Dalinar will be the one to reforge Honor, using the Dawnshard unity in some way. Cool. So we have 2 mini theories to play around with later. Now, let's go ahead and catch up with Odium. Odium's hands have been more or less tied up on braids for the last, 4,500 odd years. But he'd been waiting and he'd been watching, and eventually, his time did come. Through some clever maneuvering, he was able to smuggle a weirdly human spren onto Roshar, who then proceeded to convince a few rogue parshmen to summon a storm, a new storm, a storm to rival the High Storm. And with it came the return of the Fused and the selection of a new champion, molded by Odium himself through the thrill to be his general and win his battles. One Dalinar Khalin. But luckily for us, Dalinar was not having any of it. He rejected Odium and did his own thing instead. This generally made Odium very angry, and the seething rage emanating from Odium at this point was enough to weaken him. I mean, he was so mad it kind of crippled him. Enter Taravangian. In his most passionate state, he was able to pick up Nightblood and shove it into Odium's vessel, and he took the shard for himself. Odium is now officially under new management, but he's still gotta live with some dumbass decisions that his predecessor made along the way. Mainly, the contest. The most important parts of the contest are as follows. Dalinar is on the side of honor, and Taravangian is gonna pick a champion of his own. If Dalinar wins, Odium is pretty much locked into a few small lands on Roshar and can't leave. If Dalinar loses, Odium gets to use him as his personal general for basically all time. Essentially a sort of Dark Herald. And so, my third mini theory. Dalinar is gonna lose the contest. He is gonna lose the contest and have to fight under Odium. The Blackthorn is gonna be Odium's general and lead the armies of Rosharans against who is a question for another time. Now, okay, I see some of you out there, I can see you through my camera, and I see some of you wondering how the hell I'm gonna fit all of these 3 mini theories together. And yeah, they don't really match with each other, do they? But I promise, there's gonna be an explanation, and you're not gonna have to wait much longer. Let's start laying down some theories. Okay, folks, so this is how this is all gonna work. I'm gonna go ahead and lay out the general arguments for a few theories that I've seen floating around, and 1 or 2 that I've made in the past. Then, I'm going to combine my 3 mini theories that we talked about earlier into one unified theory of insanity, bad enough to rival the Heralds themselves. But before I start going over theories, I do want to hear what you think is going to happen. So go ahead and tell me in the comments below, and don't hesitate to edit it afterwards if you are either swayed by any of these theories or are completely revolted at the very idea of any of them and want to unsubscribe. Fantastic. Let's begin. I think one of the most likely scenarios I could see happening is that Dalinar, through use of a Dawnshard, will reforge honor and act as its vessel. Now, to do this, he's gonna have to win the contest. He's gonna have to find the Dawnshard, and he's gonna have to come up with a solid way to reunite honor. I could see all of this working, but Taravangian would have to take a major hit in the Contest of Champions for this to happen. Now, this theory would absolutely satisfy Dalinar's goals quite nicely, but it would leave things a little too neatly wrapped up for my taste. Let's pop over to the next one. As if this video wasn't tinfoily enough already, my next theory has 2 sub-variants. So the basis of this theory is that it's not Dalinar, but Kaladin that ascends to honor. We haven't really talked about him a whole lot in this video yet, but he is a fantastic candidate to ascend to honor. Not only is he bonded to an honor spren, and apparently like a special honor spren at that, but he is the only character in the whole of Stormlight Archive referred to by the Stormfather as Son of Tanavast as opposed to Son of Honor. Tanavast was the name of the previous vessel of honor, and there's definitely something weird going on there. But the long and short of this theory is that Kaladin, through use of Dalinar's abilities as a bondsmith or otherwise, ascends to a reformed honor. The two sub-variants of this theory hinge on whether or not Dalinar finds a way to win the contest, with both outcomes having a place in this theory. While the outcome of Honor's vessel would be the same, Dalinar either falling to Odium or triumphing over him would mean very, very different things for a newly reformed Honor, as presumably Dalinar's bond with the Stormfather would be coming with Dalinar, wherever that may take him. Who knows what the hell that would mean for our friends going forward. Next up, we have the theory of conquest, which has a few of its own sub-variants, just for good measure. This one I was kind of developing before Rhythm of War came out, and you can see the basis for this set of theories in my video called Dalinar's Conquest. It's linked up there somewhere. The basis of this theory is simple, and was more or less confirmed, at least partially, in Rhythm of War. Essentially, the crux of this theory is that Odium plus honor equals war. And again, this was more or less confirmed in Rhythm of War. I mean, Stormlight plus Void Light equals Warlight. It makes sense. But what would happen if we added a Dawnshard into the mix, say one named Unity? I believe that if Honor and Odium were to be combined in some way and given a sort of spin by the Unity Dawnshard, you would have a being known as Conquest. If Honor plus Odium equals war, then what does war plus Unity equal? Probably Conquest, right? War for unity's sake. Conquest. It makes sense at least up here, below the aluminum. So, okay, what are the sub-variants of this theory? I could see a few things happening here, all of which would be pretty interesting. First off, Dalinar wins the contest, injuring Odium in some way, and combines the shards of Odium and Honor into the vessel of Kaladin. He could then act as a unifying force for the new War Shard and would function as a sort of conquest demigod sort of thing. Pretty interesting. I kind of like that one. The next possibility is a combination of the first theory I listed off today with the conquest theory. In this, Dalinar would combine Odium and Honor into one being already in possession of the Unity Dawnshard, which, of course, is himself. In doing this, he would become the Shard Conquest, but that would take Taravangian out of the picture completely, right? Which I find that to be a pretty unlikely possibility. This third variant is interesting to explore as well, and this one would be possible regardless of the outcome of the contest. In this one, Dalinar would manage to reforge Honor, utilizing a capital C connection with Odium and forging a capital B bond between Honor and Odium in the vessel of Taravangian, in some sort of attempt to temper or mitigate the latter's worst tendencies. But I don't think it would really have the effect that Dalinar desires, and a conquest shard would be created. Which brings us to the final, ultimate, unifying theory. So, our theory puzzle pieces. We have Dalinar, we have the Dawnshard, we have Honor, Odium, and we have the contest. How the fuck are we gonna put these all together? Okay, here's how I think it's gonna go down. I believe that Dalinar will reforge Honor with Kaladin as a vessel. I believe he's going to use the Dawnshard named Unity to do this, and I believe that this Dawnshard has been hiding either in the Stormfather or in something to do with Tanavast's cognitive shadow. But here's the twist. Dalinar's gonna lose the contest, and he's going to become Odium's general. But I don't think it's going to look anything like what we've been imagining it to look like. Remember, Dalinar has strong connections with both Odium and Honor, and though he's going to be operating under Odium, I think it's going to be a little bit more complicated than that. And that, my friends, is where we're going to take this theory completely off the rails. What if Odium and Honor were working together? we've already seen that Warlight is absolutely possible to make and indeed to manufacture, possibly on large scales. We also know that both the new vessels of Honor and Odium, assuming Kaladin gets Honor, have personal stakes on Roshar. They do not want to completely decimate their entire planet, and they're new enough to their positions to know that working together is going to accomplish far more than going it alone. What I think is going to happen is as follows. I think that after reuniting Honor, Dalinar will find a way to unite these two shards. Not by physically merging them, but instead by using the Dawnshard to unite them in purpose. He's gonna use this Dawnshard to align their interests and ambitions into a singular cause. In this case, war. What are the mechanics of this? We have no fucking idea. We've never seen a Dawnshard in action before. Who knows what they're capable of? And on a more meta level, this leaves open quite a few interesting possibilities for the future of both the space age of the Cosmere and for the back 5 Stormlight books. First off, it's gonna mean that both Honor and Odium are going to be tempering each other's worst tendencies, and in doing so will keep Roshar safe from one another. It's also gonna nicely set up a war throughout the Cosmere, one that will not be completely black or white, or in this case, Odium versus everyone else. Hello, kitty. That is tinfoil. Only I am allowed to play with tinfoil. Seriously, don't swallow tinfoil. So, this will nicely set up a war throughout the Cosmere, and one that's not going to be completely black or white. It's going to leave quite a bit of room for moral complexity. I mean, can you imagine how, Harmony would react to a development like this? How about, autonomy? They'd surely oppose something like this, right? Would it cause autonomy to, work with Harmony? It's not really part of their thing, but I'm just spitballing here. What would the fallout of this be? It would be interesting no matter what. Bye. And the shards of Odium and Honor might still be trapped in the Rosharan system, but they're gonna have Dalinar to act as a general for both parties, united in a singular purpose, and he'll probably have the Dawnshard to help him along. I think that this has been Cultivation's plan all along. Unite the warring shards of Roshar, changing them in a way that will suit everyone's purposes while leaving room for her to enact her own plans unimpeded. Remember, both Dalinar and Taravangian were seen by specifically Cultivation, and not just the Night Watcher. Now, I don't think this is the entirety of Cultivation's plan going forward, but I do think that this is an excellent first step to enacting her endgame. And it'll leave all of the back half of Stormlight to play around with world hopping, early intra-Cosmere conflicts, and further shenanigans from all parties involved. And in addition to that, it'll also give us an excuse to dig the unmade up, turn them back to working for, rather than against, the planet of Roshar. I mean, with Honor and Odium on the same side, united in interest and sharing a singular vision, who knows what could be accomplished? Who knows what is yet to be conquered? So yeah, that's the theory. How likely is it to happen? I have no idea. But I do think that this is the neatest way I've found to have all those puzzle pieces we've been playing around with fit together in a way that leaves future conflicts not only possible, but inevitable. It also sounds pretty darn satisfying to my ear, and a really nice way to wrap up the first half of Stormlight to boot. Now, I am sure that Sanderson has a few aces up his sleeve that will make this theory seem absolutely insane in retrospect. But maybe, just maybe, I might be onto something here. At the very least, I think that this would be a nice theory to build off of, something to cultivate into something greater. I had such an insanely fun time writing this theory, and you can bet your ass that this is far from my last theory before Stormlight Book 5 comes out. For my next theory in this series, I'm going to be diving deep into Ba Edo Mishram and some greater overarching questions about the unmade. There is like a ton that has been hinted at there in the books, and I think that it's time that we introduced some definitive theories as to what's actually going on, where we're headed, and what they were before they were unmade. Go ahead and stay tuned for that video because it's going to be an absolute barn burner, possibly more unhinged than this one. I've been Lore of the Worlds, and I'm off to unite myself with a good burrito. Take care.